Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. I'm your host, Paul Sanneman. I'm founder of Contractor Staffing Source, where we help clients build great teams. John Senac is my guest today from RoofPro. We're going to learn more about roofing than anybody wants to know. I'm convinced of it. Right? John, tell me how you got into into what you're doing now and why you do it.
My dad grew up in the construction space from being a general contractor, trim carpenter, framer, just about anything you could imagine in the construction space. But most of his world was new construction. And after a few years of trying to find my way after college, I landed back in the construction space in estimating and sales in the roofing space. And that kind of grew its way into a few different businesses, from a consulting business, a material analysis business, and now I get to travel all over the country and work with various different exterior remodel companies and roofers with their businesses. So that's the short version of it.
Okay, so you know a lot about roofs, obviously, right?
Yes,
We're all
that's where.
So I don't know much about roofs at all. So my thought is everybody listening to this podcast, whether you're a remodeler or a home builder or whatever you're doing, you have to deal with roofs because every house has got one, right? So
Correct.
what have you learned, what makes a good roof? What does it make a good roof? And how do you tell whether you're making the right decision on roofing material?
That, boy, there's maybe some people who don't like this answer. The difference between a good roof and a great roof is not price. Oftentimes, material is what drives the price, but a good roof and a great roof comes down to installation. When you look at asphalt shingles, which cover a majority of residential homes across America, that's the predominant roofing surface on those, and they can make all the boasts and brags they want about the warranties and claims and impact resistance, but it still comes down to how good the installation is. So anybody looking at a roof, I'm really looking more at that business, at the person I'm buying from, their reputation, their history, and how long have they been in business, possibly referrals and recommendations and true testimonies from people who have hired them before, because it does come down to the insulation more than anything else with that particular roof system. It's a water shedding system, not a waterproof system. So yeah, now then you can move up into higher end roofs and tiles and synthetics and metals and things like that where the price ticket starts going up. And yes, those are also tied deeply to insulation. But the difference between a good roof and a great roof is a good contractor.
Okay, so how do you tell a good installation from a bad installation? And I mean, what makes a good installer versus a marginal installer? What kind of traits does someone have to make sure that their roof is installed well? Is it the guy on the job? Does he know what he's doing? Does he care? What traits make a person do a good job for installing a roof?
I think a couple of things exist in my experience. A lot of the residential world is subcontracted. You have a roofing contractor who holds ideally a license. That's checkbox one. I'd like to see if they hold that. Is properly insured. I'd like to see that as well. But there's a lot of subcontracted work. So, and those subcontractors are very skilled. But one thing for me that I've always liked to see is that the company sends a representative out to be there, be on the site, watch the job, supervise the job, be a direct point of access. Basically, they know exactly what's going on, even if a subcontractor is involved. There's someone there the whole time. There's no room for that subcontractor to potentially cut corners or skip things because someone's not watching them. So that's a big part of it that I see, especially in kind of the middle of the country. We see a lot of subcontracted roofing trades where it's a roofing company, but then the actual labor or the skill part gets
Right.
subcontracted to.
Now,
some-
I know sometimes, I mean, maybe the guys putting in the roof don't even speak English. I'm sure that's happened, right? So,
Oh yeah, market to market, that is very different.
so how do you know they're doing a good job?
I mean, I know, but if we get into really granular details, a homeowner's
Right.
not really going to know all those
No, but
particular
I mean,
pieces.
all these are they're all hiring subcontractors. Most people listen to this
Right.
podcast use a roofing contractor. How do they know whether the roofing contractor is doing a good job or not? Do they lift up the roof? I mean,
So
how do they tell?
every time I hired subcontractors, I just needed to see a few of their installs. So subcontractors can come and go. That's part of the subcontractor game. I'm very aware of that. But I just wanted to see some of the work that they've done, some of the roofs that they've put on. And when I get up there and do it, it's pretty simple. My specifications were very direct anytime I had a roof spec that was being installed. If I didn't hear the right number of nails per shingle, that's a problem. If I didn't see them chalk lines and they were just going by eye, that's a problem. I know that's not going to line up straight when it's done, right? Underlayments, if they were cutting little pieces of underlayment to fill gaps instead of running full courses, that's the first sign you're going to cut corners as you continue to go through that roof. Like how that process starts is very indicative of how they're going to finish and clean things up at the end. But I almost always had an opportunity. There's 2 subs I think I hired in my career where I didn't get to see their work first. If I can get on the roof and I can see lines are straight, installation's good, and I can't see low nails, right? The cap nails were installed properly. It has all the pieces and components that it should have on it. Then I'm happy with, hey, let me give this person a shot, but I still wanted to monitor them. I always had somebody watching those jobs to make sure that it was getting done properly and that there was somebody that the homeowner could go out, talk to, ask questions at any point during that job site, during that build.
So is there some kind of checklist? You go to AI or somewhere, you say, okay, I'm going to hire this roofing contractor. I'm going to go check out his work. Is there some kind of checklist, like, the nails straight, the lines are straight? I need to tell that if the roof's on. I mean, so what can you do to make sure that the roof he installed was a good roof? Because a lot of the guys that work in this podcast, they hire roofing contractors, don't have a clue on how you tell a good roof from a bad roof.
Well, I would hope the people that are hiring subcontractors at a minimum know all the pieces and components that go on there. So that comes down to your manufacturer and codes, what needs to go on there. But as long as you know all the pieces and components, I think there's a few simple things that I look out for. There's no checklist, unfortunately, but straight lines are key. Where the nails are key. How they do a roof's only going to leak in a few places: edges, outlets, openings, end walls, head walls, like everywhere there's an opening in the roof where it's not straight roof. So really, I guess you could say the devil's in the detail. How are they handling those pieces? Are they putting in? I was a big advocate of putting in a self-sealing underlayment around all of those pieces, like an ice and water shield around every one of the pipe boots, up against end walls, any place there's valleys, any place that roof could leak. That's where I wanted to be extra secure and know that this is how this is going to work. And I can remember the first time I saw a crew, like, because this wasn't a thing when I first got into this, ice and water shield all the pipe boots. And I was like, that's how we're doing that from now on. That's a brilliant idea. And 15 years ago, we weren't thinking of things like that on a lot of job sites.
What does that
But when
actually?
they are,
I'm a novice. What is water? What does that actually mean?
yeah, ice and water shield is a self-adhering membrane. Like under your roof, under your shingles, almost any roof system has to have a vapor barrier of some kind. Most people
Right.
call that felt or underlayment. And then in northern markets, there's a lot of use of what's called ice and water shield, and they put that around the perimeter of the roof because you're going to have snow that melts and can cause ice dams. So because that is a big problem, we made this product for it. Well, now they use that product on special areas around the roof. Costs a little bit more money, not much, but it costs a little bit more money to have enough excess to get that ice and water shield around edges, outlets, and openings. And when I saw a crew do that for the first time, I was like, that's brilliant. Now this is way less risk of leak in the future because when you put that membrane on, it seals to the roof deck. So it keeps everything nice and tight and water sheds right off of that. So if water does get behind the shingles, it keeps moving down the underlayment instead of getting into the home. So I'm a big advocate that ice and water shield or some self-sealing underlayment should be around all pipes, vents, boots, flashings, outlets, end walls, head walls, valleys, things like that.
Now, I read some statistic, and nowadays you can't tell, it's on the internet, it might not be true, that there's a ton of lawsuits over leaky roofs.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, this is again where a good contractor, it just got a good roof comes down to installation, right? When that roof leaks in this room right here and causes the ceiling stain, that's not the only problem. You have a drywall patch, you have paint, you have wet insulation, and there's a lot that goes on there. Not to mention the source of the problem, the roof needs to be fixed. And there's horror stories of people who've had to have roofers come out 6, 7, 8, 10 times trying to chase the problem to try and get that solved. I had one in my career, it took 3 trips, and it was the metal clip that holds the framing, the decking together. When they
Mhm.
tore off the roof, they bent that clip up. And then as they were laying shingles, they managed to walk in that area, step on the shingles, and push through that clip. But on the surface, you just couldn't see that little cut through the shingles, and it was right in the valley. It took us 3 tries, and we finally just opened up that whole section, ended up having to take off 2 slopes of the roof to get everything repaired. Whereas most contractors that are trying to cut costs, or say, like cut corners and save costs, they don't want to eat that 2, 3, $4,000 in repair to make that right. So they'll take the small claim or the litigation or the action against them. So yeah, unfortunate.
So I'm going to ask you another question. It seems like a silly question. Why do most roofs leak? I mean, it is not that uncommon for roofs to leak. And why does that happen?
I would say the most common one you see on an older roof. If a roof is going to leak from an installation error, it's usually going to leak in the first year. So if you are out there, you're hiring subcontractors and you're installing leaks, you really should pay attention to your callbacks in the first year, right? How many callbacks are you getting within a year of that? Because it's going to see all 4 seasons. It's going to see, if you're in a snow market, it's going to see snow, rain, dry, heat, things like that. So it's kind of been through all the expansion and contraction, everything that would go on in that roof. Most leaks on an older roof, a roof that's past that point, these 10, 15-year-old leaks, most of those have either an intrusion, like a rodent, birds that eat away at the ridge, something like that, or the flashings and components on that roof weren't designed to outlast the roof. Unfortunately, they made a lot of things that have rubberized features to them or plastic features to them that dry rot, crack, or break over time. So almost any house has what's called a plumbing exhaust, a white PVC pipe that exhausts for the plumbing out of the roof. A lot of homes have high efficiency exhausts now where it's just that white PVC pot coming out of the roof. A lot of those have rubberized flashings or components around them. 10, 15 years, those may dry rot, start cracking, and then doop, water starts leaking into those things. So older roofs, it's usually an outlet event or a flashing that has failed.
Okay. Now, you work with a lot of roofing contractors. I think sales are sales. How do you advise somebody who's selling roofs? They go into the home, they convince the person to buy a roof. I think whether they convince him to remodel or whatever, sales is sales. So what do you think's the key to closing on getting somebody to buy a new roof?
It is not your product because they all have a very similar pitch. It is not your warranty unless it is incredibly unique. And I hear all too many sales representatives go in and say, "We've installed this shingle and it's got this warranty, and we also add on, this workmanship warranty." Unless you have some special like lifetime warranty that you're throwing at them that nobody else is, that is not what's doing it. They are buying you, the brand, the person, the company. And for me, what always helped in the sale was put myself aside, right? Like understand that as long as you pay attention to that person's needs, wants, and you are paying attention to the service that they are actually looking for, and not just trying to sell something with some selfish agenda of trying to close something and get another commission, you're actually tuned in, you're listening in that, and you sell value, you sell exactly what they want back to them, and they buy the thing that they're asking for because you gave a good pitch, but you listened. Everybody's going to go in there and talk about their product. Everybody's going to go talk about their certifications with their manufacturers. Everybody's going to go in and talk about their warranties. You have to actually have good conversations with that person and present value. And that's different person to person, right? A person who's looking to throw on a roof, hey, I need to throw on a roof because we got to put this home on the market, doesn't need a whole lot of information about it. They got to get that roof on. They're probably looking for lower prices. The person who just moved in the house and their inspector warned them it only had 2 to 3 years left and they're trying to buy a roof, they're probably looking at, how do I not deal with this ticket again in the next, through the duration that I live in this home? And if you
Mhm.
aren't really selling with this active service, paying attention to the client in front of you and why they're in this roof buying decision and what is the value they need in that roof buying decision, you can miss. Your pitch sounds like everybody else if you're not listening to them.
Well, and also a roof is not something that people really want. I mean, no, it's like,
No.
a new kitchen is killer. You get to cook in it. Like a roof is a roof. I mean, I'm not going to really care about my roof. Just a roof. It
Yeah.
has no
No.
sex appeal at all, right?
No,
So
no one wakes up as like, you know what, I want to buy a roof
I'm going to
today.
buy a
No.
roof, right? So to me, it's sort of a hard sale to make because if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? I'm looking at my roof, I'm going, well,
Pain.
if it doesn't leak now, I'll wait till it leaks before I fix it because, hey, if I can wait another 3 years, great. I save, I can have my kitchen or what, my new car or something that I really want, not a roof. So how do you get around that objection?
So your most roof transactions are centered around pain, purchase, or Mother Nature in almost any situation. Okay, Mother Nature's easy. That's Mother Nature has caused hail or wind to just severely damage the roof. And in those situations, oftentimes the insurance is providing some level of payment towards the
Right.
roof, softening the transaction, right? Minimizing how much costs the homeowner's
Mhm.
paying there. Um, Purchase of the home. So when they're purchasing the home, they realize it's dead and needs to be replaced, or they're getting ready to sell their home and they realize that's going to be a sticking point, or pain. And most of that pain is leaks, just what we just talked about, right? So if you're out there for pain, there are very few people that some people do just buy it proactively. That's not a leading charge in the roofing space. Um, but these, when someone, when I have a situation where I go out, meet with somebody and there's pain, there's a leak. I want to make sure they understand. Here's what it looks like if you ignore it. Here's what it looks like if you repair it, the cost now and the cost you're deferring. And here's what it looks like if you replace it. And I think when a homeowner really understands that ignoring it is just extremely costly because your pain keeps going, your leak keeps going, and
Right.
then you're deferring how long you're gonna it is, right? And when someone really looks at the evaluation of repair versus replace, you are repairing, but you're deferring that cost. A $20,000 roof today could be 25,000 in a few years, and you just spent $1,500 on a repair to spend 5,000 more, a few years down the road. But in the pain situation, it's often very similar to plumbing problems in the house or HVAC problems in the house. If your HVAC goes out, when the guy shows up to look at it, you're thinking, please be a repair, please be a repair, please be a
Right.
repair. I'm
Right.
hoping I don't have to buy a whole new unit. But if they look at that and they say, hey, look, the coil's shot and we can replace it, I got bad news for you. That's the second coil. Like it's clearly been worked on before. So want you to know that you may buy this repair, but you could be facing this problem again in the future. That HVAC transaction isn't that dissimilar from the pain purchase when it comes to a roof. That you really have to like present a homeowner with what it looks like if you ignore this problem, what it looks like if we do a repair, and the future of that repair, and deferring the cost, and then what it looks like if you replace it. I sold roofs for a long time. And over the course of my career, the roof has well more than doubled. And then when we saw 2020 hit and prices jump, like uh, you are deferring a cost at that point that you really need to evaluate. Should you do this now as a homeowner?
Right. So, do you have any, what about well, I have to talk to three other roofing contractors before I make a decision.
Mm.
How do you handle that objection? Because it's the
So,
same whether it's a remodel or whatever. If somebody goes on the
Mhm.
internet to look up three kitchen remodels, roofers, whatever, and they say, okay, I'm going to pick the best price and best guy. How do you, if you're the first guy, how do you try to get them not to go to the next two?
Oh man. Well, this is tough in a purely retail market where it is driven on pain and they are trying to evaluate things. Speed is usually a good fact. Well, first of all, you should ask like what's important here to them. Again, this comes down to listening to the client, right? But in almost any retail situation that I experience where pain is relevant, if speed is also very important. So if they have a leak, they have an issue, they're trying to get something done, then they need that done quickly. It's only going to get more painful, more costly, and things going on. So if you recognize that early in the sale, making the offer that, hey, Paul, if I could get this on Monday for you, would you be ready to move forward with this? Right. Like basically, if you're the first person on site, how do you have conversations about what really is the driving force here? And can we do this today? The one call close concept.
Right.
If somebody says, well, we've got another roofing coming out behind me, or you're the second guy here, and things like that, I look at my proposal and I just say, hey, you know, let's put price aside. What is it that can you point out anything in particular that I've showed you, any benefits that I've talked about that are attractive to you? Right. Okay. Price aside, why would you want to go with me? The price shopper will always be a price shopper. They're going to circle back to that quickly every single time. And if you have conversations about price aside and start really realizing, like, what did they like about the other roofing company? What did they like about you? What are they really buying? Is it speed? Is it material? It's never material, by the way. I know a guy who sold 100 roofs online, and two customers called him asking what shingle you put on. Two
Nice.
out of
People
100.
people
Like,
don't
this is
care. Asphalt's
no.
asphalt, right? It doesn't really
Yeah,
matter.
well, like you said, it's not sexy. They're not like, I want to buy that roof right there. Like that's the one.
Mhm.
No, nobody's knowing that. So But you have to understand what that homeowner's real drive is. And I think removing price from the equation and really talking about the proposals, apples to apples, and why it may actually be an apples to oranges situation. I also think that two very, very important, well, sorry, probably the most important thing I did was explain part of your estimate and explain a part that nobody else is going to explain. This is pretty true to a lot of trades, not just roofing, a lot of exterior trades. But when I'm walking through our proposal, I go, so one of the things that we do have in our quote, Paul, is, your chimney has to have a special rain way to divert rain around that chimney. We call it a cricket. Some people have some different names for it, but really it's just how it's framed out to divert water around it. And when I inspected your roof, I noticed that doesn't exist. So that's in our proposal. I'm sure the other guys already talked to you about that, right? And that creates a seed of doubt, right? Where
I
Paul's
go,
like,
no, they
no.
didn't mention that part. Well, now you have aha, right?
Yeah, right. So if you can do that 2 or 3 times in your presentation, have conversations that you're pretty confident the next roofer is not having with them, that creates a huge seed of doubt in the person that showed up first and didn't close that deal. And the other person that's going to come in behind them and talk to them and pitch them, and they hear none of those things come up, that creates a huge seed of doubt. Like, this guy's really professional. He knows his stuff. He talked about all these other things that none of the other roofers talked about. I can see why his price is more, right? Or this is why I want to go with this roofer. So I like to highlight any issues, flashings, chimney issues, something that the other roofer is just ventilation. Almost every roof that's 10, 15 years old isn't right. I'm letting them know why we're changing their ventilation for it to be the right calculation on things. And I'm sure the other roofer talked to you about that, right? Well, no. The amount of times if I can get 3 of those, well, no, in the moment, I'm almost guaranteed I have that person ready to sign. Like they just realize, like, God, we had a guy just half-ass an estimate and throw it at us, and that
And
doesn't really
that would
work.
apply to any kind of sale, whether it's a remodel or whatever, right? Did you
Yeah,
consider the
exactly.
foundation? Did you consider, you go into the detail where you point out things that your competitor didn't, and it makes you look
Yeah.
smarter than they are, right? Cool.
Well, Mrs. Smith, in this particular bathroom remodel, I'm sure they already talked to you why, like, the plumbing is a little bit expensive because you want the shower head here, but it really can't be against an exterior wall in a cold market like this. And here's why. And they're like, oh no, they didn't. Why
Mention
can't
that,
it
right?
be? Well, this is an exterior wall. This has a high risk of freeze. So what you have to do to create a barrier there, or how you need to reroute the plumbing so it's not directly up against that. So even when I was doing remodel stuff, like you'd have conversations like that, and that seed of doubt where like, the other guy, I'm a little bit worried that my pipes may freeze. Like, where's he doing this plumbing that he
Yeah,
didn't talk about where this is at?
that's cool. It's trashing the competition without trashing the competition, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
not saying
it's
anything negative about them. You're just pointing out things that they may not have pointed out, and that applies to any sale. Well,
yeah.
John, I now know more and more about roasts than I knew 30 minutes ago, right? So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. If people want to get a hold of John and they have a company that might use your services, how do they do that?
Oh, absolutely. So it's very, very simple. I've got a website, johntheroofpro.com. If anybody's looking for consultations on large projects, trainings for me to come in and work with your company, classes that I offer, things like that, all of those tabs are available on johntheroofpro.com. And John has an H in it. There's also a contact me form in there that my assistant will see come through and get that set up and everything. So if you're just
Yeah,
looking to reach out to me,
this,
otherwise
let me
I
go off.
run a
Let's
wild.
say I'm a general contractor or I'm a remodeler, and I want to know how to choose the right roofing company. Would you spend time with me on helping me
Yes.
how to vet roofing companies?
If you are a general contractor looking to either add that to your business or to find subs for that, reach out to me, fill it out on my form, be very clear that that's what you're looking for, because I have contacts in about 35 states at this point.
Okay.
So I may know people to refer you to in that particular situation. So, but I have two other really kind of wild things, right? Like, one is if you're just curious about the roofing space, I have a massive Facebook group called Name That Roofing, Siding, and More, where people who are like doing remodels and they're trying to find close products, you can post a picture of that on my Facebook group, and my team is going to tell you the siding material or the roofing material and help you guys go source that. Now, it's not a formal report, but I run a material analysis company. So the guys in that
Okay.
Facebook group saying that are extremely good. If you need a formal report, you can pay for one through NTS, my company that does that. But man, if the general contractor remodels and they're looking at a siding project and they're like trying to figure out, yeah, you can text your supplier, but if he doesn't know what it is, my group will probably have that to you in less than an hour, commenting back on that group. So,
That's great.
some pretty cool things in the construction space that I realized were needed that have just grown organically that have been a lot of fun.
That's cool. Well, John, I really appreciate you being here. And again, I appreciate now I know more about roofs. And next time I put a roof on, I'll know a lot more about it.